Okay, so I know this is a Bulls channel, and I really do try and keep all of the content here Bulls related because it's what I'm most passionate about, and I know it's what my audience likes. But after witnessing what we saw in the NBA last night, the pair of Game 7 matchups in the conference semifinals, which featured two teams that went to the finals last season in the Bucks and the Suns, was so unprecedented that I had to talk about it. I really do need to create another channel for general NBA related content, but one step at a time. Not really sure if that's feasible for me to do right now with two young kids. But anyway, so as I'm sure everyone is aware by now, we saw both the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks and the defending Western Conference champions in Phoenix Suns get eliminated in absolutely embarrassing fashion in a Game 7 elimination game, one of which was by far more embarrassing given the Suns lost on their own home court, which is so rare for the home team to lose a Game 7. But not only that, they got completely obliterated, like we were watching the 92 Dream Team play Trinidad and Tobago. The Suns were out of this game from the first quarter, being down 30. By halftime, they were down by as much as, I think, 50, I believe it was. And of course, ultimately lost the game, I think, by 36 points or so. Hats off to the Dallas Mavericks, who played a hell of a game, a hell of a series. But they had no business winning this one, especially Game 7 in Phoenix, not after the Suns had one of the best seasons in their franchise history, winning 64 games. This was their year. So many people predicted the Suns were taking the title this season going into the playoffs with how dominant they were in the regular season, how impressive they were in getting to the finals last season, and actually started off 2-0 in that series, and to be up 3-2 on the 4-seeded Mavs, all but to lose the next two games. Game 6, I mean, whatever, they should have closed out the series in that game, but it's in Dallas, you expect them to put up a fight. But it is inexcusable to lose Game 7 on your own home court. Shout out to Luka Doncic, though. If there was anyone ever doubting his abilities to show up in the playoffs, which was absolutely ridiculous to begin with, but all of that has now been shut down on all those narratives after taking out the best team in the league and going up against one of the greatest point guards in the history of the NBA in Chris Paul. Luka Doncic is the man. This is going to be an interesting offseason for the Suns now. I mean, they ran the crew back, rightfully so, to go all in for the franchise's first title, extending Chris Paul to a long-term deal. They didn't reach an extension with Deandre Ayton, who is set to become a restricted free agent, who, by the way, I know a lot of Bulls fans have been talking about as an intriguing option for the Bulls to pursue this offseason, which I've said all season long. I don't see the Suns not matching any offer sheet Ayton may receive based on the way the Suns were projecting to be a title contender and based on the fact that it looked like they were going to be on their way to a title run as the season went on. There was no doubt in my mind that they would let Ayton go and break up the core that they've established. But now, I honestly don't know. I mean, you really can't say there are some glaring holes in this roster because they clearly performed well all season. They played incredibly well last season. They just straight up choked in Game 7 on their own home court. But you'd have to think, going out in this way, getting humiliated last night, that there aren't going to be some changes made to this team. And if there was anything telling last night about the Suns' rotation, it was the fact that Deandre Ayton, their starting center, only played 17 minutes, scoring 5 points in an elimination game. And when asked about his limited playing time, Coach Monty Williams just said it was for internal reasons, whatever that means, and Ayton declined to speak to the media. Yikes. So it's safe to say that Ayton's future with the Suns, set to become a restricted free agent this offseason, is probably more uncertain than we initially thought. They're not going to move on from Devin Booker. They're not going to move on from Chris Paul. They have a solid rotation with great depth off of the bench. Again, the only question mark is Deandre Ayton, because we all know he was looking for a max contract extension and the Suns were unwilling to give it to him, and he's good enough of a player that is going to draw significant interest around the league, especially teams who are looking for a solid two-way big, kind of like the Bulls. Now for the Bucks, I mean, of course, Bulls fans smiled a little bit when they saw them crumble in Game 7 and getting knocked out of the second round. Like, yes, even though the Bulls got spanked by the Bucks both in the regular season and the playoffs, after the shenanigans Grayson Allen pulled earlier in the season on Alex Caruso, which really derailed our season, and then the franchise coming out and defending his actions, putting out a statement saying they disagreed with the league's ruling to suspend him for a game. You had the players obviously citing it wasn't a dirty play, but a hard foul. Yeah, we as Bulls fans were happy to see the Bucks blow a 3-2 series lead and choking away Game 6 at home to close out this series, and then completely falling apart at the Garden in Game 7. Not even competitive in the fourth quarter. For the defending champs, they have the best player in the game of basketball. They blew a series against a younger, more inexperienced team, a first-time head coach out coaching Budenholzer. Like, honestly, it was bizarre because it already felt like we were in some sort of alternate universe, seeing the defending champions fall apart in Game 7 and getting eliminated in the second round. But you compound that with the second Game 7 that we saw, where I was like, okay, well, at least in this Game 7, it will be a better and more competitive matchup, one that is going to be not that much of a surprise with the Suns coming out on top. That just goes to show how great this league is, how competitive it is, how much parity there is at the top, and how unpredictable it can be that anyone can on a given night, and momentum can shift quickly just when you thought everything was all locked up. You knew the Suns and the Bucks were going to come out on top of Game 7, heading to the conference finals, keeping things status quo. But no, you had the biggest surprise upsets in the NBA in a single day, and I absolutely loved it. I think it's great for the league in terms of the overall level of competition and not just having predictable teams that are going to end out on top season after season. I'm also curious to see how the Bucks offseason is going to go. Now that I think about it, I'm sure the big three will all stay intact. They're not going to trade Giannis, Middleton, or Drew Holiday, but Pat Connaughton and Bobby Portis both have player options this offseason. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I know Bobby has been loving playing in Milwaukee, but it wouldn't shock me if he opts out of his player option for a larger contract, which the Bucks wouldn't be able to afford with the cap space they have available to them. Wesley Matthews is also a free agent. Can't see him returning. And George Hill and Brook Lopez will both be on expiring deals that could be dealt. I have a hard time seeing both of those guys coming back to the roster. This is what I love about some adversity and turmoil from top teams in the league that fall below expectations, because it opens up opportunities for other teams to take advantage of a team like the Bucks and the Suns and their need to make changes after a failed season, even if some of those changes are reactionary and premature in nature. I'm very curious to see how these conference finals series are going to pan out. I personally cannot stand the Warriors and was actually hoping for a Suns-Warriors matchup, because I think the Suns are a bad matchup for the Warriors, while the Mavs are a much better fit for them offensively. And as much as I would like to see the Mavs win this series and head to the finals, I just don't think that that team is there quite yet. And the Warriors have too much experience and star-studded talent and a better coach. But we'll see. Like I said, that's what's been great about the NBA this season. It's been very unpredictable because the talent pool is just so high and the quality of basketball is so great. For the Heat and the Celtics, I've always kind of hated the Celtics ever since that epic 2009 playoff battle that went to 7 games with the Bulls. I would much prefer to see the Heat win, especially because I still like Jimmy Butler and I like seeing him succeed, even though it pains me when he does, because as Bulls fans, you always look back and wonder what could have been. But that's going to really be a fun series. That matchup in that one, especially between Butler and Tatum, is going to be great because you know Jimmy is going to be locked in. Tatum is playing at the highest level we have ever seen him play in these playoffs. I really do think the difference maker in this series could be Bam Adebayo for the Heat, and the Heat shooting is going to set them apart as well. But again, another series that is really up in the air. If I had to guess, I would say the Heat and the Warriors are going to be winning their respective series, but I hope I'm wrong. I would love to see a Mavs versus Heat finals in repeat of 2011. I would love to hear what your guys' thoughts were on these games last night. Were you all as shocked as I was with their outcomes? Let me know in the comments, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.